can have everyone's attention, please. First, thanks for being here. I'm going to call the Facilities and Safety Committee meeting to order. And first ask if we have any public comments for agenda topics. Do we have any?
There are no requests for public.
Wonderful. All right. And then we'll go jump right in with Debbie and Danny. Why don't you guys take it away? School Safety and Security 3-year audit report and other school safety related matters.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon, Dr. Pettis, Committee Chair, Dr. Cortez, community members, senior team, and audience. Thank you so much for being here. So joining us today, it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you Mr. Hector Rendon. He's our Region 1 Safety Consultant who will be providing today's presentation on the 2020-2023 3-year Safety and Security Audit Cycle. HCISD has partnered with Region 1 for the independent review of HCISD safety practices, utilizing the Texas School Safety Center recommended best practices as a guide. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Mr. Rendon. You're welcome to join us, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, board, ladies and gentlemen. As you see on the screen here, presented by Mr. Jay Aguayo. Mr. Aguayo is not here today. Mr. Aguayo is our safety coordinator, my boss. And at this time in 2020, 2021, 22, he was a one-man operation. As of October, we're now a total of 5 inspectors for our region. Okay? And I've been assigned to Cameron and Willis County. So with this, we're going to now also be working with your 3-year audits, assisting Mr. Aguayo to complete the requirements. So if I may begin, the emphasis here is again the overview of the actual safety audit that has been conducted on all your campuses. Here in Harlingen CISD, we'll look over the supplemental tools that we use for the audit process and the emergency operation plan and updates that are going to be required of that. And a summary of the key district-wide findings, recommendations, and commendations. As we visited each of the campuses, we identified those, and those will be provided before the end of the month. And then the Harlingen CISD next steps as necessary in order to stay in compliance. Introduction here: to comply with the Texas Education Code 37.108B, as we all know now, because of our Governor Abbott's request and the Texas legislature implementing these new rules, we now have to be in compliance with the not only the 3-year audits, but the intruder detection audits as well on campuses. All right. We have been able to work with Harlingen starting January 2021 to August 2023. So here we are at the beginning of August, and we have a few days still to finish. So we will be able to complete our part to be able to ensure that you are in compliance with August 31st, 2023. The 3-year audits, again, have been able to allow us to not only just visit the campuses, but also visit the auxiliary buildings, including administration and maintenance, bus transportation as well, to ensure that we are meeting with the compliance. The audit results for each of the campuses are again to be supplied to your district emergency management, safety and security director, working with Mr. Castillo and Ms.
Hello.
Yes, okay. Both of them together in communication with our department have been able to stay very busy and been able to address any misunderstandings, any questions that have arisen because of the newly arising requirements. The final safety audit report that will be supplied to the Harlingen CISD safety team will summarize the more significant audit findings, including detailed recommendations as well as commendations. At any time when we are on your campuses and we see those areas that are sometimes above and beyond what is required, we will make those commendations to ensure that you recognize the fact that your team has been working very hard at trying to stay up with our requirements. The actual safety team consists of Mr. Aguayo, and myself now, okay? Mr. Castillo, Ms. Sandoval, Mr. Richard Alvarez, the principals, our campus representatives, our representative from Primera PD and Collins PD as well. The supplemental tools that we've used during our audits, again, district-wide online surveys, and now some of these surveys have been issued, some of the surveys are still forthcoming before the end of the month, allowing us to ensure that we have input from the people representing the campuses, and we are able to document those responses. We want to be able to ensure that the representatives of the campuses are able to have input into what the actual audit entails. The intruder assessments administered by Region 1 point access to that instruction facility, auxiliary facilities. At this point, with the governor's request, we were at 70% of campuses to be visited. For this new upcoming year, and we're going to do 100% of campuses. Okay, so you'll be seeing more of us, okay? Ensuring some of those campuses that were not visited last year, more than likely we will make it before the end of May. Region 1 recommendations of combination, again, they're documented on each of the individual campuses, and the Texas School Safety Center detailed safety audit checklist. You may be familiar with the Texas School Safety Center. They are the ones who actually assign the campuses on a month-to-month basis. So some people say, well, how did you get to go to the high school? How come you didn't go to this particular elementary? Eventually we will, but on a month-by-month basis, those assignments come from the Texas Safety Center. The Harlingen CISD Emergency Operation Plan has been revised, and the implementations of new legislations have been made to plan. The Texas School Safety Center is conducting ongoing reviews of all district emergency operation plans. So you can rest assured that we are in compliance up to this point. And the Harlingen CISD has also followed the Safety Center templates that are provided on the Texas School Safety Center website, and serves as an infrastructure for district emergency operation plans and access. By having the template, it makes it so much easier to read and to understand, and allows anybody from any of the other schools to be able to know what it is that they're looking at, okay? So when we use a template, it makes it a lot easier to follow through and make sure that we are in compliance. The emergency operation plan will have additions or changes when there are new legislative session comes about, okay? In this case, with the new House Bill 3, we will need to make a few adjustments. An annual review should be done to ensure all requirements are input into the existing emergency operation plan. It is my understanding that you all are meeting once a month, and that's even better because it allows us to flow and to be able to address any issues that pop up at this time. By the end of the year, no need to worry about it. We should be able to be okay. And recommendations. Again, all key staff to be trained in the National Incident Management System, NIMS, and the Incident Command System, including your principals. Okay? Very important that, especially when we do reassignments, right? The beginning of school, if it's an assistant principal or a high school or an individual teacher who now becomes an administrator, to be able to be trained in NIMS and the Incident Command System is very, very important. Okay? The sooner they do it, the sooner they'll be able to understand the big picture. And more importantly, especially now that we have September coming around the corner with our needing to worry about the weather, right? Our target area for hurricanes is September. And if we get caught in that, then we need to be able to understand how it is that we're going to be working with the National Incident Management System. Because have you had an opportunity to understand the NIMS? Any of you, board members? Yes, some of you? Okay. That is applicable to any kind of incident that takes place, not just the weather, okay? But in many other cases. And then in the case of the Incident Command Center, we've had many instances where the high school principal, the campus principal may now need to understand at what point do I turn it over, okay? If I have an active shooter on my campus, just because law enforcement showed up, doesn't mean I'm relieved of my duties, correct? So when they go through the training, they get to understand what needs to happen in order to turn over the command, right? Very important for that to happen. In previous discussions with the Harlingen CISD safety team, during the audit process, the district is implementing ways to improve access control measures that are ongoing. When I met with Mr. Castillo, I believe it was early October, November, we already had a team of 12 that was visiting each of the campuses to make those necessary work orders and or listing of activities that needed to happen. And that was taking the bull by the horns, right, basically. So we're very happy to see that happen. Any findings, commendations, recommendations, and comments are provided to each of the campuses audit checklist. Again, as I mentioned, that is forthcoming. We've already tallied up all the information. It's ready to be submitted by our boss, Mr. Awayo. You should be receiving that in the next couple of weeks. The commendations on behalf of Mr. Awayo's observations. Currently holds a close relationship with local and county law enforcement within the community. As you can see, the representative here today. In many places, they don't get to know each other. So the more you communicate with each other, the better that's going to happen to allow us to be able to know and seek that help that's sometimes necessary. HISD is currently working with local law enforcement entities to implementation updates to the emergency operations plan. And each campus has a structured visitor protocol in place. As I visited the campuses, many times, we tell them, just because I represent Region 1 doesn't mean pass, no. They have to take them time. May I ask you for your driver's license? May I run it through the Raptor? Okay. Sometimes I'm going to hold on to your driver's license until you finish the audit to make sure that you leave campus. Right? So those are some of the procedures that we expect to see. Active shooter training are being implemented within the district to all administrators and staff. And the inspection of fire code equipment annually with local fire department agency. Within the 3-year audits, we get to look at your fire extinguishers to make sure that they have been inspected. We get to notice to see if you have audio-visual alarms in the common areas. We get to also see that you have computer labs with 25 or more. Then you're required to have a fire extinguisher in there as well. We also get to see the fire-rated doors, and I'll make a comment. You have one back there with, you look at the spine, and it's got a label, right? And if we find any of those door stops, that becomes a write-up, okay? So they must remain closed. So, and then a lot of times, a lot of principals, well, all my offices, I want to keep the doors open because the kids come and go all day. If it's a fire-rated door, you don't have to lock it, but you need to leave it closed. Because what happens, I go home for the night and the door stayed open, right? And then if something happens, that fire just spreads. So keep that in mind. That's the purpose of the fire-rated door. Staff intruder awareness. School personnel around the district were found to have awareness of unidentified persons intruder on school property. I had an incident with one campus where I peeked through the window on the side, and as I walked around, 2 people were inside the office. I said, there's someone trying to come in the back door. And then, of course, I come around the front, and I was able to have access because of the request button, and they let me in. He said, were you the one peeking through the window? No, I wasn't peeking through the window. I was passing by the window. And then he said, well, did you try to open the back door? I said, yes, I did. He said, I was checking to see, make sure that it was locked. They said, well, we were ready to call the police department on you. I said, well, that's a good thing. He said, but it's only me. Okay? And by the way, just so you know, that anytime we're going to visit any of your campuses, my role is to call your superintendent and then call the police chief in charge to be able to let them know the month of October, I'm going to be on Harlingen campuses. So they're already aware. Sometimes they say, can you call me 10, 15 minutes before you get there so that I know? And we are watched by that. So it's not any surprise on our part, okay? Continued commendations. Building security points of entry. All schools have designated points of entry that are monitored and controlled to ensure building security. The school resource officers are present on campuses, and Harlingen County EOP is modeled by the Texas EOP template in Annapolis. And I would like to commend Mr. Castillo and his team for the attention that is given to the safety of all students and staff. This team is receptive to all new legislative safety regulations. Our next steps. All school district safety, facility safety audit walkthroughs will be conducted before the new deadline, August 31st. We have 4 more campuses to do. The Safety and Security Committee to report the results of the safety audit to the District Board of Trustees in closed executive session. Final report will be submitted to the district, and the DAR, District Audit Report, online questionnaire from Texas, to be done by September 15th. Develop a written action plan based on the report's findings and recommendations, and specify dates and personnel accountable for such completion. Review and implement new legislation to districts' existing EOP plan and trainings. All right. Again, a special thank you to Harlingen CISD leadership, administrative educators for supporting staff and community in their continued efforts to create a safe and secure schools for all students here in CISD. With that, any questions?
Thank you very much for being here, and we look forward. When is your next visit? You said it's going to be in what month? When are you coming back?
We come back officially for the 3-year audit, or for the intruder detection audit.
Yeah, those.
Intruder detection, as soon as school starts, we will get our assignment. Probably, I would say September. Start in September.
Thanks for being here. Very comprehensive. Appreciate the different accommodations, but also the advice and the different ideas you have. So we're going to not only be in compliance, but to be the best of the best. So we appreciate you being here. Danny and Debbie, anything you want to add as a maybe closing for this part of the safety?
No, one of the things that the state has really, as far as emphasized the best practice for districts, is to ensure that this 3-year process truly becomes an ongoing process, not something that we try to get done once every 3 years. But I think some of the evidence of that has been both things that have emanated down from the state on the intruder detection audits. This past summer, a lot of the internal audits we conducted to the exterior doors, things of that nature that are ongoing throughout our district. I think that is what really lends more value to this process, coupled with the partnerships and relationships we developed with Region 1 as a tremendous resource for us as a district, but also our first responder community, that we continue to build upon that. And I think that's what makes this whole process more valuable. That's where we learn true, practical, tangible things that we can implement to the district that not just make sense to the district, but make sense within that greater community that we service, including our first responders and like I said, Region 1. So appreciate everybody's teamwork.
Thanks for your continuing to sharpen the saw and learning the best practices and having that growth mindset to keep learning and make things better and better and be vigilant about all these things, and especially at every campus. Thanks for your leadership. Any questions, any further questions from the committee for our guest today?
I do have a question.
Yes.
You mentioned a survey given to all the staff. What was the participation percentage? Did everybody participate in that safety survey?
And at this time, that is ongoing. Okay,
It's still
we'll
being-
complete that by September 15th.
Okay.
Yes.
And one more, the recommendations for all key staff to be trained in NIMS, is that already?
It's something that we've already had in place. It's something we always revisit every year. Starting with our security team, that's one of the first things, since they got back on their calendar for this year, there's a number of different beginning of the year trainings. So every 3-year cycle, they'll take the same trainings again as refreshers. For security team, there's 3 basic NIMS courses that they'll take that are specifically tailored towards school-based ICS, environments. So there's other trainings, very similar, that we recommend for campus administrators, district-wide administrators to take. Many of them have already completed those over the last 3 years. We just need to keep on top of that to make sure that every 3-year cycle, they take those refresher courses.
Thank you.
And Dr. Bettis, if I may, I also want to commend Mr. Castillo. He's done a great job. For Region 1, you all have been a wonderful partner. And as I look around the table, like every so often, I get emails from several of the partners about this. So we feel the importance and we feel a lot of support from you all. And then I'll also say that every year we're getting better. So this year, Mr. Castillo had the chance to, along with Mrs. Sandoval, to present to our substitute teachers. What a huge eye-opener, because we need them. We need them in our schools. They're in our schools every day. So thank you all for adding that and just for continuing all the work that y'all are doing. Great, great work. And being proactive. I think that's the key, right? Is that we're proactive and you're constantly, Danny, looking at things on the horizon. So I appreciate you.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you so much for being here, and we can't wait to see you back again. So
All right, we look forward to it.
we're going to ask you what your favorite school is next time you visit. Debbie?
Thank you, Mr. Castillo.
Danny, Debbie, I know that finishes that agenda topic. Is there anything else from the school safety and security update report that you need to talk about? If not, then we'll go on to the next item.
No, so not at this time.
That is wonderful. Well, thank you all for being here. And again, everybody's welcome to stay. I think the rest of the agenda items are not safety related, but facility related. But everyone's obviously welcome to stay. We appreciate your presence here. We'll jump right in. Mr. Tapia, this discussion regarding possible drainage infrastructure and fencing upgrades at Dishman Elementary.
Yes, Facilities Committee Chair Dr. Perez, Committee Member Dr. Porton. First item I'm going to talk about is the Dishman Elementary possible storm drainage. There's some verbiage there that I explained. You can read it on your own, but basically, Dr. Steve Jennings executed for neighbor to Dishman Elementary, one on the north side and one fronting the expressway. I reached out to the district to see if they wanted to help out in some possible improvements. So we'll break this slide a little bit. Dr. Jennings lives at the very top left. You have to drive right in front of the school. It's a dead end, and he lives there. So we're familiar with all the flooding issues we've had at Dishman Elementary. In the 14 years I've been here, we've had 2 major floods where the school had a foot of water all inside of it. Out in the courtyard, there was like 3 feet of water, and it was just a mess. And the city Combs is working with Texas to try to do some improvements, but it's still not the ideal structure that we have in place. But they're working to get more grants and things like that. So Mr. Jennings is on the drainage board, the drainage district board, and he wanted to share that as the board got a grant for drainage district, I believe it's number 5, and they're going to increase the pipe that runs there in front of our school with the Blue Wave Medley Drive, gets expressway right there. There's about a 30-inch pipe that goes all the way under the highway, and it goes south to a man-made lake that's there. I've never seen a lake, but there's some kind of lake that all that area drains to. He says the grant is going to increase that to 2 pipes, possibly 36 to maybe 48 inch. They're still trying to figure that out. Finalize the drawing, see what they can afford as part of the grant, and then bid it out and award it and start sometime here in late in winter time or early spring. He says once that's done, then the district, we don't have a lot of drain pipes in our facility. If you look at the top right picture, that pipe there in the bottom, that's little 10-12-inch pipe that we have a swale that our playground drains to there, goes under that pipe into that drain ditch all the way to the corner. And then the very bottom, that's the pipe that goes under the expressway. And there's a canteen, which is about a 30-inch pipe in there. So once those pipes are increased, that drain ditch will be widened. That's in front of Mr. Escarovich's property. And then it's covered because his driveway goes over, there's a pipe underneath, and then that's where our property starts, that pipe there on the top right. So on the top left pictures is a valley gutter that goes all the way from the front of the school. You can see the marquee. There's a valley gutter that comes all the way down and goes also to that little pipe, which goes underneath the driveway out to the outfall. And we can see there's one drain inlet there in the middle of that top picture left. And it catches all the water that comes from the school. There's pipes inside the school, and it goes into that inlet, and that's that water. All of it goes to that one point. As you turn the corner on the other side of the school, where that cone is, there's another inlet there. And you can see the valley gutter on the top left. All the way from Mr. Jennings' property, way up there, all the way in front of our playground and the cafeteria, the dumpsters, all that water comes surface drain down that valley gutter and goes into that little outlet, ties into that other one that I just showed you. And the bottom picture is the outlet that's across the street in the parking lot that we have. And that also ties, I believe that one goes to the west, the opposite way. Not much drainage there. So those are the inlets inside Dishman Elementary. So we do have some infrastructure inside our school property, but it doesn't have much of an outfall. So Mr. Jennings is asking, well, if we do that through the grant in the school district, can you all increase your pipe size all in front of the school, and so that we don't have the flooding anymore? That whole area, that whole neighborhood, and even up to Mr. Jennings, all that area flooded. So once we improve ours, it'll benefit everybody in the immediate area. And I think that's a good thing, because I think one of the things that we talked about is, well, either that or we have property on the left side, about 20 acres we bought many years ago. We just build a new dishman up above the floodplain and get rid of the school. That's a $35 million solution. This one could potentially be maybe 550,000, but I would like to, if it's okay with everyone, to get this, require the services of a civil engineer to do a study to see how much it would take to do that, how much would it cost, and then meet with City of Combs to see if City of Combs is willing to participate in some matching funds. Although I have a feeling they're going to say, well, it's your school, we don't have any money, y'all do it on your own. But even if we do it on our own, I still think that's something that we should pursue. So if that's the case, and once I get civil engineer and do a study, estimated cost and scope of work, I'll bring it back to the committee to see if we can figure it out of this year's TRE funds.
What's the timeline for something like that?
I could probably come back in about 2.5 months. Probably by the October meeting, at least with the engineering, very preliminary estimates.
And remind the committee what, so Richmond has flooded several times since I've been on the board. At least, one bad one, but at least a couple different times it's flooded. Have you done anything to improve that situation or no?
Well, we went in and we had to cut 4 feet of sheetrock because of the water.
I know we fixed the building stuff, but as far as drainage, we never really had.
No, because most of the problem is off-site.
Got it.
Unless they increase that drainage across the highway, we're kind of stuck with what we have.
So
we don't get involved in that part. But now that they're going to do that,
So the timing is kind of good because
Yes.
they're going to do the surrounding infrastructure upgrades or to the drainage system and then
right?
something.
And I think the drainage district number 5, they used our claim for that last flood that we had there. We had over $500,000 claim on our
To justify their
grant.
their
That's
grant.
right. That's,
Any grant money available for us or probably not?
not at the moment.
Not that we've seen
Yeah.
now, but it was available to the drainage district.
Yeah.
Can the city apply easier than us for grant money for that type of
Well,
project?
that's something we're going to ask the city of Combs to see, because I know their budget's very small, but if they can get some grants to help out, that would definitely help.
So Oscar, on with your yellow frame there to the left where the A is, isn't that the field that always, there's a lake there up in heavy rain and we get flooded?
On the left side,
Yes. Don't we own that property?
we own the 22 acres that's being farmed, which is right next, above the parking lot that we have in the bottom left.
Right.
Parking lot that we own all that property.
And that's where we usually have a big lake up there anytime of substantial rain or.
Well, there and the school. The school actually probably floods more than that property.
I'd like to call it a retention pond.
Yeah.
It's our board.
So,
Okay, it's our.
I think it'd be a great idea because, one of the reasons we talked about problems down the road with that school, that location,
Mosquito
is
project.
because of the flooding. And one of these days, that's where college is going to have to grow. It's not going to have any other place to go except that place.
we're fortunate that we did to get the insurance to pay for it, but our deductibles are pretty high, so how much are you for building? For building, so we have to hit maybe $300,000-400,000 before the insurance kicks in. Now it's just $200,000 per building. So I think it's something worth looking into and coming back.
So I don't hear any objections. I
No,
think you have
no
permission from the board to come back and give us some, get the civil engineer, I mean, the sooner the better to come back with a plan, and then that, the idea would be bring it to the committee first and then to the regular board for action if you have, I mean, or at that point you get permission and then bid it out, or how would that go, Oscar? Or is it just as simple as just telling you, include it in the TRE and it's done, or how would you go from there?
Yeah, once, if I come back and the report is favorable and the budget's good and we're able to fund it out of TRE, then we would hire the engineer to actually do the construction drawings, that we can bid it and award it. And being that it'd be the whole front of the school, I would say award it in April, May, and start right after school's out, because once we start that, the whole front area is inaccessible, be a big disturbance to the school. The other issue with Mr. Exerovich, because they're in the bottom right, is that green line around his property. He has a chain link fence, 6 foot. The orange one, he would like for that fence to continue all the way to the back, because he says cars driving there, people walk through there. And the Combs PD has a long response time to get over there. He calls them. He says, well, they drive up to the fence of the school and they could, attack the kid or take a kid, whatever. But I said, yeah, but that's not our property. I don't think we can do anything on your property, because it's private property, it's public money. He said, well, what if you move it a little over to where it's on the right of way? So that could be the state or do it right away. Well, we can always do intergovernmental agreement, but even if we did that, it's still not contiguous to our property, and then it has to turn to connect back to our school. So I really don't think we can do that. But in observing the yellow line around our school, the back part and the east side and the north side, that's a 5 foot chain link fence. And the audits they're gonna do here, the gentleman, that's gonna be a finding. So we gotta replace that fence anyway, and we recommend an 8 foot fence. So we're gonna do our 8 foot fence anyway, there's no need to tie into the neighbors. What he's asking for, so basically it's gonna say no, but I know Dr. Tom got a call about it too, and said I'll bring it up to the committee and see what feedback we get. But I wouldn't recommend it.
Is this something that our grant writers could look at?
I was just gonna say, I wrote myself a note about grants because our grant writer is phenomenal. And very often when we ask her to look into something, she somehow finds different opportunities for us. So we can work with her. She works pretty quickly as well.
Any other questions?
No, if you know the questions, you could jump right into the next one.
Okay, now,
ESSER funding project.
just the ESSER funds are on page 11. The first one is central air and heat, the engineer is doing that. We have new units at Wilson, those 26 units, they've already been installed, delivered and installed, and we're going to be doing commissioning work with an engineering firm that's going to look at any efficiency, work out any bugs, get those systems going 100%. And there's a picture of all the units that were put in at Wilson. At Copley and Long, at Copley, we won't get the equipment until October, and the units for Long won't come until November, so we're just gonna have to wait for those. Any questions on the AC? If not, on the roofing, on page 13, we're doing the Early Childhood Academy. This project was awarded the last board meeting, a little over $1 million to American Contracting. There's a little bit of repair work on the Vela area over the gymnasium band hall area. There's some repair, flashing and things like that. Early Childhood Academy is re-roofed the entire school down to the deck. At South, there's some repair work over the library just to get the water off faster in that area. We've been having some issues. So we've had the pre-construction, contractor signed, ordered materials, so this project's going to be starting soon. Unfortunately, with timing, it will be done during the school year, so we'll work carefully with them that if they issues and it smells that we can delay it further till the afternoon or weekend, but it's just something we got to go through. There's really not much of a summer anymore to do a lot of this work, so a lot of it goes into the school year. This other big re-roofing administration at Harlingen High School is RGO Roofing, $4.6 million. This is roofing work on 22 to 8. And we added wing one to a change order at the board meeting, also include doors and windows. And they're starting on wings,
Oscar, who's Argeo? I'm sure it's something we approved.
Argeo Roofing, yeah, we approved, we ranked them. They're a spin-off of American Contracting USA. It's a big family, the brothers and cousins and uncles. Some are here, some are in Corpus or in Houston, and they've all started their own companies, so they've been in the roofing business.
Are they based in Harlingen or?
This company, Argeo, is based in Corpus.
Do they have a
They have a
satellite
valley
office here? or-
Yeah, they have a local office, do you remember, Kimberly? You don't remember? I think they had the corporate office in Corpus, but they do have crews down here in the valley. And they started on wings
Six.
6 is done.
No, they're halfway through week 6.
They're working from the left towards the right. We try to get as much of the work where the kids are in the middle, so that they'll leave the work closer to the parking lot on the right side. They've done wing 7 and 4, and they're working on 6 right now. Then they'll move to 3 and 1, which is from left to right. I'll just show you some of the pictures. That hallway there is the culinary wing, and the new science wing we built on the right. We kind of enclosed that corridor that's really dark, and even with cameras, it's hard to see sometimes. So we're making 3 openings. You can see on the left there, we cut the concrete, and they're gonna put little skylights that'll allow sunlight to go in and illuminate those hallways. Some of the painting on the door frames and the doors on the right side, they're doing that patch white. And that's some of the work on the bottom right. You can see the new, that's roofing, that's what they call dried in. It can rain and it'll no longer, water won't go through the roof anymore. So all I need is a final cap sheet. So that's one wing, we're moving wing by wing. Janak Architects is doing roofing work at several elementary mini gyms, which they haven't started yet, and they're listed there. But they just finished, they're finishing up the administration building across the street, the annex building, 2-story building, and a 300 wing to 1-story building. And they're over at Vernon on the library. And then they're gonna, after that, they'll start working on the mini gyms and district operations. I think Quonset Hut, we're just doing a coating over it. And the cosmetology building downtown, we're doing 2 new repairs. And we're about 60% overall on that one. There's the annex building, it's a white all new roof. And that's Vernon, where they're doing the tear off and already painting some of the plastic, felt and part of it. The other project that Janak is working on, and I don't have a slide for it, but they're also doing doors and windows, and we're bidding that one separate. We did bid that out in February, and we only got 1 bid. It was $735,000, and the bid came in 1.1 million. And only 1 bidder, so we said we're gonna rebid it. So we re-advertised it in March, April, and the bid date, we only got 1 bid again.
Same people?
But we didn't open the sealed bid so that we could extend the bid another 3 weeks, so we were gonna start over again. So 3 weeks passed by, we all were here at the front with purchasing, and nobody showed up, 0 bids. So we're not gonna try bidding that one anymore, we've actually done it 3 times. So we're going to recommend we go to a buy-board vendor. Every time we use a different procurement method, and being that this is special funded, the board has to approve the procurement method. So we're going to put an agenda item next Tuesday for you all to use the buy-board method for this project.
And Oscar, can you remind the committee when do we project our ESSER funds to be exhausted?
At the end of 2024, all monies have to be used.
So we
September
have,
30th, 2020.
So we got about a year.
So we have about 13 more months.
14,
or so.
14, yes.
Okay, and so timing is of essence to use it. And how much, muscle memory, how much money do we have left?
735,000 for this project. For this project, that is the last one we have not bid.
Okay. But then other projects for the next year, are we still have more funding available, ESSER funding available for next year? Or we pretty much exhausted all of our
There's
money?
one more small phase for controls upgrades at Harding High School for about 260,000. That will be the last
That'll
one.
be the last one.
And I think all of our ESSER funding was earmarked already
Yes.
for some type of
Got it, for projects, okay, got
Right.
it. So we're gonna hear next Tuesday about that, next the project you said.
Will it be under consent agenda?
And that's a different kind of procurement method, but you've already got a plan for that, or?
Yeah, we already have a plan of specs, so we would just give those to vendors on the buy board, like Spaza, Noble, and Wilson.
Got it.
See if anyone's interested, give us
Okay.
a price based on your bid with the state, and we'll bring it to the board for approval.
Through job order contract.
Your budget was how much on this job?
$735,000.
It was $1.5 million, so
1.1 million, one bidder. We just didn't think there was
So
enough
then-
participation.
Oscar, what are we approving next Tuesday again? Is it not the final, it's just the permission to go out and get it, or will we need a
It's
final?
just to use the
Procurement
method.
Just to
Job
change the
order
procurement
contract.
method to a different.
Job order
Got it.
contract.
And then you would go out and get it and come back to the board again?
Yes.
You got it, okay.
But why wouldn't they have bid the first time? If they're gonna bid through the budget?
Because it's a different, I think because
Because we advertise for competitive bid proposals.
those competitive bids, they're just not attractive to them, they basically don't.
And there's vendors already on the buy board, original one, which is Person Cooperative.
Now,
They have participated on that job order contract.
and we'll call the local ones, and they may say, well, we saw it, we didn't want to bid it, we're too busy, we don't have, we have to, and they may not want to, so we may have to go to somebody in Corpus, Houston, San Antonio, Dallas. Come
And
down.
and that's the deal right there, there's so much work to be done, that people are out there, they're just gonna go for the better paying jobs, to be honest with you. I mean, that's what's happening, it's just crazy. And so, that's why it helps to have these relationships where you can call in a favor from some of these companies and say, hey, we really need your help, can you bid for this? Or, you know, I mean, it's just really, that's what it is. It's coming down to that. You have to almost beg people to bid for a job.
Howard?
So, just so I'm clear, how much money is still available in ESSER to be used? Not a lot.
We have only about $1 million.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it.
So we're not really even going on the table.
No.
Oh.
No, there's some more projects we want to bid, we don't have any more money for it.
All right, good,
Yeah.
good, okay.
Thanks, Oscar. Is that any other questions on the ESSER funding? If not, you can move right into TRE funded projects.
Yeah, the last two, ESSER funded the central plant upgrades, the chiller pumps and the repiping and all that. Remember, we had a rental chiller on wheels. And it looks like they've done all the work done, and they're supposed to turn on the new pumps with the chillers and disconnect the portable this week,
Correct, yes, sir.
later this week. And they're gonna leave the rental chiller there for a week to make sure nothing fails, and if it doesn't, then we're good to go. Get rid of the rental, and we're back in business 100%. So that's, we made some good progress. This is just showing you some of the top of the pumps and the piping working. There's a portable chiller in the bottom right. Okay, now we'll get to our TRE projects. Paving projects, this is the Secondary Alternative Center is on the left side and the first responders on the right side. We're doing a new drive coming in there in the middle with a circular drive, and then we're doing a new bus drive that it exists right now, goes around the building by a railroad track, comes out of TAC, where that's going to be paved. And we awarded it, they're starting construction. And there you can see in front of those two buildings, the demolition, all the old parking lot was demolished, all the new work's going in, and they're pouring concrete. All this is going to be concrete except for the parking spaces, which are asphalt. We've got our conduits in for future electrical and sprinklers, things like that. So we're probably 6 weeks away from completing this. We'll work with.
That's a big change in that property.
Yeah.
It is, and it's going to have a landscape package too, so it's going to look nice and green.
Did we ever buy the building that was adjacent to it?
Yes.
We did buy that
So
too?
that was the old Habitat building.
Yeah.
And it's vacant right now, we haven't decided what to do with it, but once all this is done, then we're going to be looking this year what use we can do with that building. Early Childhood Academy outdoor spaces, this is the work of Green Thumb. It's already under construction. And there's a design, the school's on the far right. So on the bottom left is where all that work's happening, and the contractor's working on furthest to the right to try to get a phase there that will be available for the first day of school. And just to show you, the top left is the old basketball courts that were demolished. That rainbow set was in the playground that was moved out. That one's going to be moved in once it's ready. And the bottom areas are pouring the sidewalks and the gathering spaces. And already got the rebar in there. They're going to pour it's Thursday. And so let it dry. Next week they'll start bringing in. We got river rock, some areas with drainage underneath. there's crushed granite, there's landscaping, and you can really try to have something for the first day of school. If not, we do have that internal courtyard that is ready, but they're saying that they can do one section of it. So you can see the drainage underneath, they have to type the grade and level it so that water goes to the areas that are designed. Renovations of Hardin High School, a lot of things going on there with Zero construction. And I'll go straight to the photos. As you enter the school there, and where the flagpoles are, right behind that wall are the other three pictures. We had from rebar there in the top right, and then it was poured. On the bottom, it's concrete, but they have canvas over it with water to keep the concrete a little moist. Because with the heat, it dries too quick, it'll develop a lot of cracks, spider vein cracks, and things like that. So they're doing their best to keep it moist and let it cure the best they can without cracking.
How long do they keep that down there, do you know?
About 7 days, 5 to 7 days.
They just keep it saturated or?
Yeah, just
With a
with
hose?
the hose, water now. Probably about 5 days. The hallways, it's mainly the main hallway is going to have that wood treatment. It's going to soften up the look.
Great.
And the architect that did this, if some of you went to the Camp Perry and you looked up, this is the same design, and that's where kind of the inspiration came from. It's really going to soften that up, and as time goes by, it'll build up a little patina and just look natural, get rid of that old concrete look. The bottom left sidewalk, that was the long sidewalk in front of Wing 8. It was almost black. It was like a dark gray, charcoal, and very polished, so people would slip. So there was a machine that they went over that really scrubbed it and gave it a little bit more texture and cleaned it and looked like a regular gray sidewalk was. That was something the school was really excited about. All the old tile work, we're getting red, a little bit of white and black to do the design, but there's certain areas throughout the campus has that tile, and the school's really excited about that. Looks really nice. The quad area is the gathering space. Where the trees are there, that's where they have some tables where they eat outside. Now they're gonna have a nice area with a ramp. The middle bottom left is a quad area. It's a big circular area that's gonna be poured concrete, but there's a recess where they're gonna put brick pavers with a nice design. And that's gonna just be a gathering space, a photo op space for the kids, spirit days and things like that. They've never had anything like that, so they can't wait for it to be finished. The cafeteria top left is where they eat. They call that the dungeon area because it was always so dark and damp. Well, we're going to bring in some light throughout the panels on the top left. There's going to be an area open. There's going to be some landscape areas. So all that cutting of the concrete they did is to run sprinkler systems. So there's going to be some landscape islands to bring some greenery into that space. And the bottom left was the other side over here in front of the cafeteria where the cake, I think it's a cake building, some kind of, used to be the old RDC building. That area is called the barn. All that was demolished because it was real thin wood and it was already in danger of falling down. So it was all taken off and they're going to put a new covered area over there. The right side, all that stucco was a white bonish color and it was getting dirty, looked dirty. So it's all having that coat color that matches. If they had already painted the library that color, so now it's all going to match to have a consistent look throughout the school. The band hall, the top area was that stucco that was all cracked. And the top right, as you can see, they've already sealed it. They got the Tyvek material over it. This is the area they're trying to finish within the school, so they can get out of there, just waiting for the metal panels and they'll start that. And then the top left is the band hall area facing the parking lot. They're going to wait for that for later, but at least they'll be working on the outside and not the internal part of the school, so they're phasing that. And the bottom part, that's not the gym, that's a cadet hall, what they call it, performing arts building, where the cadet stands, and they have a wood floor now, so it's easier on their feet and their shins. And it's kind of a multi-purpose building, and they're very happy dancing on that new floor. Memorial Middle School track, that project was awarded to Hellas. That one's 100% complete, all the striping, and Kimberly and I walked it with Coach Davies and Soloya. The striping looks good with the track and everything, so they have a brand new track at Memorial 100% done. Performing Arts Center, we did the lighting. We bought the materials ourselves, and then we hired Peace Electric to do the labor, and they're almost done. It includes a brand new lighting control board that Joseph Armendez over there, the genius using that board. He did some of the wiring, Texas Scenic, that's gonna come down to a commissioning. And those fixtures there, they look tiny, but if you put it here on your desk, it's probably about this round and about this tall. They're all over it, and you can't tell because they're so big. But they're already complete, and you can see them all on top. They have their LEDs, they can change, they have a remote ballast in the bottom, so they don't have to go up there so often. So we're pretty much done with that. We're just doing a little punch list on some of the seats. On the wood, got a little bit chipped with all the scaffolding, so we're making the contractor go back and fix it a little bit. Culinary arts at the high schools, we have the architect working on that, about $300,000 budget for each site. We've already done some demolition work. The bottom left is Harlingen High School South. That floor actually turned out to be hot with asbestos containing material. So we're doing an asbestos abatement starting later this week to get rid of that tile. But at Harlingen High School, they already tore out the floor and they're sanding it to make it smooth. So the top pictures are before and the bottom are after. It's going to be a brand new layout. Coakley Running Gym. This project is underway. This is being done partially through the contractor. There it says Coakley and Vernon what the contractor's doing. And then in-house, we took that all out of the project because it kept coming in so way over bid. We're doing the bottom. We hired the flooring company ourselves. We hired a painting company. We got 3 bids. We're going to see that on your next agenda next Tuesday to award it to the 3 bidders. I forget which one was the low bid. And they're going to be doing the painting at both gyms, the deck and the trusses and the walls. Kind of what we did at two high schools. And we're getting quotes on the sound system. Greg's helping us to get quotes with the engineer design plans already. And the intercom. We're doing that ourselves to save money on construction contractor costs. So we already started the sanding of the floors. And that's when the bleachers are all out. When the bleachers are all out, they have an assembly, but you can't play basketball. So they push the bleachers all back, and they wanted to recenter the court. And the way it was done, to give so much on the aisles, the first base design only has 400 and some seats, 475 seats. And when the school found out, they were like, no, we need our 800 seats back. We're short of seats. Well, let's meet with athletics, let's see what we can work out. And so our architect came up with extending the bleachers longer than they were and adding a couple of more rows. And so we were able to add 426 seats at a price of $83,000. So we're going to recommend a change order to the contract. And that's a really good price. It's only about $186 per seat. Years ago, I used to budget about $200 a seat. That's a really good price for $83,000. So we can get back to the 820 seats that we're doing.
I have a quick question, Ms. Britton. Is that to bring to the board meeting
Next Tuesday to do a change order to the contractor. Once that's given to the signed and given to the contractor, they'll get their submittals approved by the architect, and it's going to be about 4 to 5 months for the materials to come in. But all this other work I talked about will be done, which is the last thing we'll just be waiting for the review. So the school will be able to use it here in the fall. Parking lot lights at Vela and administration. This is something that came up several months back. We had some problems with some light poles. We had one that fell here in the administration building. I think one at Vela, our guys went and checked them. And they saw all that rust in some of the poles. We were concerned how many more poles are going to fall and whether we have something fall on a car or a person. So we hired Robert Kishner to do a study. And with their study, they have certain gadgets they use for a study on the thickness of the metal. And at Vela, all the ones in red are the poles that they said, you need to not take those things down now. They're in danger of falling with very high winds. So we hired a crane during spring break, and we took all the red poles down, and only the white ones were left. And then at the administration building here, all the ones in red were the poles that were in danger of falling down. We removed those, and only the white ones. It was only 5, 6 poles left anyway. So we've hired Sigma Engineering to do a design, to redesign, to put new poles, new wiring, new LED lighting, because it's not worth just leaving a handful of the old ones there. And then you're going to have 2 different looking poles. So the engineer's going to, he estimated about $360,000 for both projects. We're gonna use part of the safety money under PRE, because that was truly a safety issue, just an emergency waiting to happen. So as soon as the engineers already finished the plans, we're gonna start advertising August 4th. September, probably award in October, so we can order the new poles.
Oscar, are those metal poles or aluminum or what?
They have a concrete base round of about this high, and then they have metal anchors that were into the cement. And when it dried, then you have the 4 bolts, so they just brought metal poles, sat them there, and screwed them up.
Because I mean, Vela's not that old. I mean, is there a better material that they
It's
can use?
almost 20 years old, right? Yeah, just the metal that they used, just didn't last.
Is this the same as the state uses?
I think the state uses aluminum, up to galvanized, these were not, these were painted metal. And
Is it, we're putting painted metal back in?
no, what we're gonna do is we're gonna eliminate the concrete bases, and then we're gonna drill holes and bring in concrete holes, 100% concrete, and about 5, 6 feet of concrete hole is gonna go in the ground, compacted in, so that thing will never rust, it's concrete. It's with a kind of an exposed aggregate look, with new LED light on the top. And the way they're designed is with the photometrics and the 4 fixtures on top, we'll have the holes that will cover more area. So that's how we're able to get it this way.
Oscar, do they come with some type of lifetime, lifespan warranty? The same thing's happening with the banks. They have the same base, the same metal paint that they're following. And so, do they guarantee a certain lifespan with
The concrete poles will probably have 20 years, but we'll check that. But that's why we're going with that kind of system. It's not gonna rust and fall, because I know I was in Brownsville, closer to the coast by the port, and those things wouldn't last that long.
I think that's
We
what's
had
going
to
on
get
with
some
all the
aluminum.
DVDs.
Yeah, and there was also about 2 weeks before we found ours. The reason we were checking them is because there was light pole that fell at quarters of a LED, fell in the car at a school. Well, let's go check ours. Well, we know we have some rusted ones, and that's when we discovered
Good.
all this problem. When we're done with these, we're gonna go check a few more, but these two, I know where they were.
That was
Fencing.
great. I just want to commend you for thinking about that and doing something immediately.
District-wide fencing, we heard a little while ago, the safety report and the three-year security audit and everything they're checking. One of the things, the big issue is fencing. And so ever since that started, we've done a lot of fencing work. We started at Coakley with that front metal, blue metal fence, but it was 6 feet high. But it was put in the ground and the sidewalk was in front of it, which was 4 inches higher. So if you stand on the sidewalk, it was only 5 inches. Didn't comply, so we had to take it down to the 8-footers. That one's complete. Jefferson, we replaced a 6-foot wood privacy fence with 8-foot chain link with slats. That one's done. Sean was done, Treasure Hill's done, and Memorial. So we're working at Davis Middle School, Vela, Austin, South, Leeds, and all of these, the contractors saying that pretty much we'll have them all done by the time school starts. Might be a little punch list items, but it'll be secure. The one that we're just starting is Stewart Place. They started last week. The good thing about Stewart Place has 2 big fields, and there's one fence right down the middle. So the area we knock down, the kids will go on the other side. And when that's done, we'll flip them over, bring the kids on this side. When it's all done, we're gonna knock that fence down in the middle. So actually that fence in the middle helps keep 2 working areas, so that's gonna work out good. So in total, we've spent about $808,000. We did get a grant, a security grant, that it was preliminary. We're anticipating it's gonna be awarded in August sometime. So we've been spending that money. And just last week, or earlier this week, we got notification that it was officially approved and Raymond will be getting a check.
Well, it's always a reimbursement basis.
Reimbursement.
You submit the expenditures and no reimbursement.
That grant was for like $777,000. So it's
Part of that will be used to cover some of the expenses.
Fantastic.
That's a
Is that our good
Seven
grandmother?
cents to the business.
Yes.
Is that your grant writer?
Yes,
Yes.
she's amazing. She really is.
So we're going to continue looking, like I mentioned, Richmond would be another one, and see if any other ones, try to get in front of the auditors. As you heard in September, they're going to hit all the remaining schools. see if there's anything out there, so we can put those on do designs, group them together and do one big bid, so we can bring it back to the board, because I know it's gonna be over 50,000. And so we can finally be done with this fencing audit. And just some quick pictures at Austin, that's the new 8-foot fence. Jefferson, that's chain link with the slats. Lee Means has an 8-foot fence, and it also protected kids from going into that big drain ditch that's on the side. Treasure Hills also has a chain link with slats. Cano. Gutierrez, 8-foot fence around the perimeter. Memorial also. And Gutierrez also goes along the Chester Park Road around the pack as well. So it's just not the school, but also the pack in the back. Pack in the back. And then Bella, it's 8-foot fence in the back top left. There's some poles are up, but once the poles are up and dry, the skirting goes on really quick. The fence matures. Arlington South also, they're working out in that big playground behind the tennis courts. That big play field practice area, that's the one that was 6 foot and it was kind of not great shape, so we're doing it all brand new. That's it for the fencing projects. Church Hills Playground, the equipment finally came in. It's been a year since we ordered it. And prior to that, we did Wilson, also took a year to order. So we'll see if this year's TRE, if we can do add 1 or 2 more schools, but we know it's going to be a long lead item. Change orders to the contract is going to be the bleacher expansion that I told you at Coakley. It's going to be $83,000, so the contract will come up to $879. That will be on the board agenda next week. And we have one closeout that payment that we're going to have on the agenda for the Zavala Kitchen with Gerlach, and that's going to be in the amount of $35,750. We don't have any contingency money left. We used every bit of it. So this will close out the project. We're going to release the final check. And that is the end of my presentation. Are there any questions?
I just want to say thank you.
Sorry, that's enough.
It's amazing.
On the project's going.
Next item,
Great job. Go right into it, Ramon.
construction funds and other projects financial report.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Pettis, Dr. Fontan, before you have our June 30th, 2023 CRE budget. Currently, years 1 through 7, we have spent $79.1 million. This current year, we've spent just a little bit over 14.56 million. And that includes both expenditures and outside recoveries. Total spent the past 10 years is $93.2 million. That gives us a positive variance of $1.1 million. That will be carried over to the new year 23-24 budget. And the additional $10 million will include it in our next report, as well as some of the projected expenditures for CRE projects for the 23-24 school year. And we will present that at our next facility meeting.
Awesome. Thank you very much. If no any further questions, meeting is adjourned. Thank you guys very much. Awesome. I guess we'll have to jump into the next one.